And they remind me that this country is ready for a history-making change. They are ready to reclaim their freedom, their independence. And
I saw that and I thought, is that an assessment?
And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate.
This is my video update from Belgrade, Serbia on this Monday, midday, October the 9th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the conflict in Ukraine. Or not. Let's not talk about the conflict in Ukraine because that was yesterday's conflict. We have a new conflict, and that is the conflict in Israel. So all of a sudden, the media has just stopped talking about Ukraine, especially the collective West, mainstream media. But to be honest and fair, even many of the Telegram channels and a lot of the Twitter accounts that were covering the conflict in Ukraine on a daily basis and in depth, they've now shifted to the conflict in Israel. And this morning, I actually had a bit of a difficult time trying to find some news as to what is going on in the conflict in Ukraine, which is pretty interesting. Russia's advancing in the direction of Kupiansk. The Ukraine military, they're pulling in reserves in the direction in Kupiansk, up in the north in the Kharkiv region. And that's what I got for you. I mean, obviously the counteroffensive, we don't even want to talk about the big super duper counteroffensive. Let's just forget about all of it. And everyone is now completely focused on the conflict in Israel. Even Ursula von der Crazy, she put out a Twitter post, an X post, and she said, "Today Hamas terrorists have struck at the heart of Israel, capturing and killing innocent women and children. Israel has the right to defend itself today and in the days to come. The European Union stands with Israel," and you can see, I guess this is the Brussels headquarters. Yeah, this is the Brussels headquarters with the flag of Israel, the entire facade of the headquarters in Brussels. I think this is the headquarters in Brussels. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, it's a building with Israel, the Israeli flag. I think the UK said that all of the government buildings will now be lit up with the colors of Israel. In Germany, the colors of Israel across all the monuments. You know, the Ukraine flag is gone. It's been swapped out with the Israeli flag, and as long as it takes, the long war, all of these narratives, just forget about them. The new narrative is Israel has the right to defend itself. That is the new narrative, and every leader in the collective West is repeating that narrative. So there you have it. That is the shift that has now taken place. Some people, some analysts believe this plays into the benefit of Russia, because the conflict in Ukraine is it's yesterday's news, and so this is gonna benefit Russia. This is gonna hurt Ukraine. Yeah, it takes Russia out of the spotlight for however long this conflict in Israel is going to last. If this is going to be a short conflict, or if this is going to drag on into a long, difficult war, like what Netanyahu said the other day. But yeah, definitely it takes away from the media spotlight on Ukraine. Definitely, this is bad for Zelensky. It's bad for Zelensky because if there's anything that really drives Zelensky, that Zelensky absolutely loves. It's the media attention and the spotlight. He is a comedian, puppet actor, so for Zelensky, this has got to be weighing down on him. And of course, you have the narrative about ammunition and the fact that the U.S. is going to, the entire collective West is now going to divert ammunition and money to Israel. No doubt about it. If the choice is Israel or Ukraine, well, Israel is going to get the money and the ammo, or at least whatever's left of the weapons and ammunition, given that the collective West, many countries in the collective West have been completely demilitarized. But the U.S., they've still got quite a lot of weaponry and ammunition, and so they're going to give over that ammunition and those weapons to Israel, not to Ukraine. But going back to Russia and the fact that this is a benefit to Russia, the fact that the media spotlight is not going to be on Ukraine anymore. The Russians, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I think the Russian government, the Putin administration, couldn't really care that much. I mean, yeah, the media spotlight is not going to be on Ukraine. That's fine. But for the Russians, this is still an existential threat. NATO and this NATO proxy, the conflict in Ukraine, Russia is going to continue to work towards completing their goals of the special military operation, whether CNN reports on this conflict 10 times a day or never, ever again. Russia is going to continue to work towards completing the goals that they set out in February 2022. And the only variable that I think Russia is looking at as far as the media and the conflict is concerned is, how long is this going to play out? Is the U.S., how much money is the collective West going to give to Ukraine? Are they going to give them this $100 billion one and done, or is everything going to stop tomorrow because it's all going to be diverted to Israel? For Russia, I think that's the variable of this conflict. Whether everything stops, all the funding and military aid stops tomorrow, and Ukraine, as Putin said at Valdai, Ukraine collapses in a week or two, the goals of the SMO will be met. Or if the Biden White House does manage somehow to get $100 billion to Zelensky, and they drag the conflict out for another year, Zelensky is able to drag this out for another year until Russia wins, the result remains the same. A Russian victory, whether it's in 2 weeks or whether it's in a year, whether the media covers it every day or whether the media doesn't cover it ever again, Russia's going to complete their goals. So, I just want to say that the analysis that this benefits Russia to a certain extent, from a media perspective, the fact that they're not going to be covering Project Ukraine to a certain extent is true. But as far as the actual conflict goes and Russia's objectives, Russia's going to complete their goals, whether it's in 2 weeks or whether it's in a year. It's really up to the collective West how much longer they want the military of Ukraine to suffer, really. I mean, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what's happening here. Ukraine can capitulate and they can accept the realities on the ground and they can be saved. Or Biden gets $100 billion or $50 billion to Ukraine and more of Ukraine is destroyed. And the worst part about it is that more of Ukraine will be destroyed without the media attention on Ukraine. Think about that for a sec. Biden's plan is actually pretty sinister. If what the Telegraph was reporting on yesterday is true, even if he doesn't get $100 billion to Ukraine, let's say it's $20 billion or $30 billion, it buys Ukraine, I don't know, let's say 6 months of time. Russia's still going to win. That's obvious. Russia's going to win. and Ukraine is going to be ground down, but the attention is going to be on Israel. So Ukraine's going to go through 6 months of being ground down by the Russian military, while the entire collective West media is completely focused on the conflict in Israel, if the conflict in Israel does turn out to be a long, difficult war. And so the reports are that the Israeli forces, Netanyahu, is they are preparing 300,000 reservists for it looks like a big ground assault towards Gaza. That's the way it looks. The U.S., they're moving in aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, as well as other ships in the carrier group. 12 ships in the carrier group moving towards the Mediterranean Sea, and in order to provide support to Israel. Quote, a show of support, according to the Pentagon, for Israel. And to assist with the possible evacuation of U.S. citizens from the country if the need arises. So, Iran, they have come out with a statement, an official statement from Iran, and they say that they had nothing to do with Hamas and the attack on Israel. The decisions made by the Palestinian resistance are fiercely autonomous and unwaveringly aligned with the legitimate interests of the Palestinian people, Iran's mission to the UN said in a statement to the media. We are not involved in Palestine's response, as it was taken solely by Palestine itself. That is according to the UN mission, the Iranian UN mission. So that's an official government statement, because the BBC, they were running a story yesterday, and they said that a Hamas official claimed that Iran was behind this strike, this operation. They plotted the whole thing and they greenlit the whole thing. You did have another Hamas official, I forgot which Collective West publication, interviewed this guy who said that Iran was not involved in this. But to date, we haven't, hey buddy, to date we haven't had an official statement from the government in Iran, and now we got one from the mission to the United Nations. This has to be Don Quixote. Absolutely. So let's see here. Yeah, the theory that this was orchestrated by Iran because it was such a well-planned operation and Iran had to be behind this. Iran is officially denying this theory, this speculation that they were behind this. And you know, the Collective West, they really want to pin this on Iran. And when I see people like Lindsey Graham talk about how Iran is behind this, when you hear all the Collective West media outlets, like I think the Wall Street Journal actually ran an article and said that Iran was behind this. Let me see if I've got it bookmarked here. Yeah, Iran helped plan an attack on Israel for weeks, according to the Wall Street Journal. You know, when you have the Collective West media saying that Iran was behind this, when you have people like Lindsey Graham and all these neocons, Nikki Haley was making the rounds on Collective West media yesterday, and she was talking about how Iran was behind this. When you have all of them saying that this is Iran, you know, Iran, that's, to me, in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong about this, I understand, and I was talking about this in my video yesterday, I understand the analysis that implicates Iran. I think there's a logical analysis that makes sense. But Iran has now officially said that they're not behind this. And even though they do benefit, there is a benefit for what's going on for Iran, especially vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia and Israel. But when the Wall Street Journal and Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham, when they start going after Iran, to me, that's all I need to know, that probably Iran, maybe officially, Iran was not behind this. Unofficially, there may have been forces. I'm pretty sure that there are forces that may have been coordinating with Hamas. But on the record, Iran is saying they had nothing to do with this, and this is just a well-planned operation from Hamas. So the collective West, they really want to get a conflict with Iran going, and this could have. I'm starting to come around to the belief that, on one level, what has happened in Israel was a failure, a surprise for the Netanyahu government, and a failure in their intel and for the Israeli military. I think that's one level. And then there's probably a level above that where there are forces that knew what was happening and they understood what was about to go down, and maybe they quietly looked away, or they nudged it just a bit so that the operation from Hamas took place. And I'm starting to come around to the belief that two things can be right at the same time. And I say that because the Biden White House is absolutely incompetent. So I have no doubt that the Biden White House, and I mean just the Biden White House, I'm not talking the intel agencies, but I have no doubt that the Biden White House had no idea what was going on. Blinken, Sullivan, Professor Biden, I mean, they're clueless. They're clueless, and they're so invested in Project Ukraine. I mean, they are so invested in what's going on in Ukraine that they see nothing else. And I've been saying this, the Duran, me and Alexander have been saying this for a long time, that the Biden White House has bet everything on Project Ukraine, and they've ignored the entire world, and especially the Middle East. They stopped caring about the Middle East. Let's be honest. The Biden White House, they really stopped caring about the Middle East, and everything was about Project Ukraine. So I would not be surprised if the Biden White House had no idea what was going on. I would not be surprised if Netanyahu, the Netanyahu administration, was caught off guard. Now, maybe intel services above Netanyahu or behind Netanyahu knew what was about to go down, but the administration of Netanyahu, Netanyahu, he was a dangerously clever politician. I mean, when he was at his prime, dangerous, but clever. You have to give him that. Very dangerous. He seems to have lost a step, right? That's my take on Netanyahu. He seems to have lost a step, and he was embroiled in a lot of corruption allegations and charges, as well as really big domestic issues like the judicial reform and the protests. I mean, he was not doing well. And it wouldn't surprise me if he, like his administration, took their eye off the ball. That would not surprise me either. Haaretz, let me read you something from Haaretz. They lashed out at Netanyahu in a big way. An editorial from Haaretz. Netanyahu bears responsibility for this Israel-Gaza war. Haaretz, they're basically saying that Netanyahu bears all the blame for this. He dropped the ball. His government's a complete mess, is what Haaretz is saying in their editorial. And Netanyahu, he took a very hardline approach to everything, whether it was domestic issues, whether it was the protests, the judicial issues. the Palestinians, Gaza. He took a hard line to everything. And they're basically saying the guy really messed up. So the final 3 paragraphs from this article says, this also included a massive expansion of settlements and bolstering of the Jewish presence on Temple Mount near the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as well as boasts of an impending peace deal with the Saudis in which the Palestinians would get nothing, with open talk of a second Nakba in his governing coalition. As expected, signs of an outbreak of hostilities began in the West Bank, where Palestinians started feeling the heavier hand of the Israeli occupier. Hamas exploited the opportunity in order to launch its surprise attack on Saturday. Above all, the danger looming over Israel in recent years has been fully realized. A prime minister indicted in 3 corruption cases cannot look after state affairs, as national interests will necessarily be subordinate to extricating him from a possible conviction and jail time. This was the reason for establishing this horrific coalition and the judicial coup advanced by Netanyahu, and for the enfeeblement of top army and intelligence officers who were perceived as political opponents. The price was paid by the victims of the invasion in the western Negev. You know, it's interesting when you read about Netanyahu and his indictments, the corruption cases against him. My mind goes to Trump and how they're pouring on the indictments and the lawfare, the legal cases against Trump as well. But anyway, two different cases. But yeah, Haaretz is basically saying that Netanyahu blew it. He really blew it. And he took a very hardline approach with Gaza and the Palestinians, and the whole Saudi deal that he was cooking up with the Biden White House it was all, it's all well and good. Okay, you want to create rapprochement with Saudi Arabia, but Haaretz was arguing that Netanyahu gave nothing to the Palestinians in this deal. They were left out of this big grand bargain, this 3-way huge peace deal that the Biden White House was putting together, which I can see Haaretz's point. Absolutely, it shows the inexperience of not only Netanyahu but of the Department of State for the United States. It shows that they don't understand how to negotiate. They don't understand how to come up with deals that could progress an overall peace. You know, if you wanna have a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, you know, how can you leave the Palestinians out of a grand bargain? You know, they have to get something out of a rapprochement between, a big player, Saudi Arabia and Israel. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting article from Haaretz, and it leads me to believe that perhaps Netanyahu, yeah, he messed up. He messed up, and he had no clue what was going on. It doesn't mean that there weren't other forces, Mossad or other intel forces, that didn't know what was going on. I think there were intel forces that didn't know what was going on. They just maybe looked the other way or helped the operation in a certain way. I don't know how or what exactly. I'm just giving you my opinion here. But being a dangerously clever politician, a political animal that Netanyahu is, I can see Netanyahu as absolutely dropping the ball, but I can then also see him pivoting and saying, you know what, this conflict, one of the purposes of this operation against Israel that maybe some intel sources knew about but didn't tell me or warn me about, maybe this is meant to remove me from power. Netanyahu has been stubborn with all the cases against him, the protests, everything that's going on in Israel. His popularity, from what I understand, his popularity is falling. I could be wrong about that, but maybe this was meant to be an operation which also accomplishes the removal of Netanyahu in one way or another, discredits him and forces him to to step down from power or something like that. So I can definitely see Netanyahu saying, you know what, you guys are going to try to remove me with this operation. I'm going to maneuver this to drag Iran into this, to put out messaging saying that this is our Pearl Harbor, this is our 9/11, and turn around the messaging to make this into a bigger conflict, to try and widen this out in order to preserve my position. You see what I mean? That could be something that's going on, because when I hear the messaging now, this is Pearl Harbor, this is 9/11, it's, Iran is behind this. There are definitely now forces at work that are concerned not only about self-preservation, political self-preservation. The Biden White House, you guys dropped the ball. Biden, you dropped the ball. Netanyahu, you dropped the ball. So what do you do when you drop the ball and elections are coming, or people are telling you to step down, or you have all of these legal cases against you, and you have this very well executed, successful operation from Hamas, which could bring down your entire political, your entire administration, could bring down your entire political power. What do? You try to widen the thing out. You try to make this into a bigger war. You try to drag other countries in. And that could be what Netanyahu and the Biden White House could be doing. Even though the Biden White House, the New York Times is saying that the Biden White House, they're scrambling to deter a wider Mideast conflict. That's the title from the Washington Post. But, you don't send aircraft carriers and 12 warships into the Mediterranean if you're trying to deter a Mideast conflict. That's escalation. That's not looking for some sort of off-ramp. So, Lindsey Graham, he put out a tweet: an attack by Hezbollah and other Iranian proxies would be devastating to Israeli defense systems. If such an attack occurs, Israel and the United States should go after the Iranian oil refineries and oil infrastructures, which is the lifeblood of the Iranian economy. This has the potential of turning into a much wider war. I'm just reading a tweet here. Carmen Sebia: Hamas has terror cells in the United States. They came in via the porous southern border. The people in power know this, and they also know there will be attacks targeting our major cities. America's next. Joe Biden and his handlers are responsible for what is set to happen. You see, there are forces at work that are trying to build, to create a much bigger conflict, and I'm worried about a false flag. I am really worried about some false flag happening, say in an American city or in a European capital, which could then trigger a big, wider war, wider escalation, targeting Iran. And as I said in my video yesterday, the Neocons, they would like nothing more than to go after Iran in order to go after Iran. They've been wanting to get at Iran for God knows how many decades, but now you have BRICS and BRICS Plus and the multipolar world, and you have Iran and their claims that Iran drones are being sent to Russia, so it's kind of connected to the conflict in Ukraine to a certain extent. And so the Neocons would love to get at Iran. So I mean, this is dangerous stuff that's happening, and I really worry about the trajectory. The Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Iran is behind this narrative. It's very, very worrying, and and for the Biden White House, this is the conflict that can, as I said in my video yesterday, that can disappear the debacle that is Ukraine. So, let's see here. Biden tells Netanyahu military aid now on its way to Israel with more to come. That's according to Axios. Yeah, the U.S. is going to prioritize Israel. They're going to give a payoff to Ukraine if this is a long war. I always have to say that. If this might not be a long war. This might not be a long war. I think it's going to be, but if this isn't a long war, let's just say this isn't a long war, then they'll pivot back to Ukraine. But if this does indeed turn out to be a long war, a protracted war, then yeah, Biden's going to try to get whatever he can to Ukraine, however many billions to Ukraine, and he's going to cut Ukraine loose. That'll be it. That'll be it. And as I said in the beginning of my video, Russia is going to achieve their goals, whether it's 1 billion to Ukraine, whether it's 50 billion to Ukraine, whether it's 100 billion to Ukraine, whether the media is focusing on the conflict in Ukraine every day, or whether the media completely forgets about Ukraine for Russia. They're just going to go about their business and complete the goals that they set out in the special military operation. So I think that's most of the news, the update as to what's happening in this conflict in Israel and with Ukraine. And with Ukraine, there is still a conflict in Ukraine, though the entire collective West would like everybody to forget about it, and most people will forget about it. And a conflict in Israel is something that the collective West can really rally around, can really get behind, more so than the Ukraine conflict. Look at the price of oil. We have to keep an eye out for the price of oil. War in the Middle East. This is from Matt Nilsson. War in the Middle East. Oil prices surging. And remember, Biden has drained the U.S. strategic petroleum reserves, which will give even more leverage to OPEC plus countries to take advantage of the Israel-Palestine conflict to destroy Washington. You see, the Biden White House, the entire collective West, they bet everything on Project Ukraine. They gave Ukraine ammunition and weapons and stockpiles of weapons and, strategic petroleum reserves that the Biden White House tapped into. And now you have this conflict in Israel. And, I think the United States is the only country in a position to really give something to Israel. Europe, much of the collective West, I just don't see how much they can provide Israel, how much support they can give to Israel, which, when you look at the timing of things, perhaps Hamas, but definitely Hamas, they understood this. I think they understood that the collective West is at a very weak point. It's really interesting that for the past year and a half, we've all been talking about a second front opening up, right? The U.S., the collective West, are going to try to open up a second front against Russia, right? Is it going to be Georgia? Is it going to be Serbia, Kosovo, Metohija? Is it going to be Armenia, Azerbaijan? We've already seen what's happened there, and there's always been talk about a second front. And that second front was going to cause problems for Russia. That was the thinking, right? Open up a second front, you cause a headache for Russia, and that helps degrade Russia and helps Ukraine to win the conflict. The reverse has happened. The exact opposite has happened, right? The exact opposite. A second front in this global war that is taking place, this geopolitical war that is taking place, a second front has opened, and that second front is really to the detriment of the collective West. It's just one of those things that you don't expect, but there you have it. Now, you can cause trouble for Russia in a way by dragging Iran into this. I think that's how you can cause some headaches for Russia, for BRICS, for China, for the multipolar world, as if you can drag Iran into this conflict. But if Iran doesn't take the bait, this is going to be a tough one for the collective West to figure out. But it could be the off-ramp for the Biden White House. could be the off-ramp before the election season. And if Biden doesn't run, well, that's probably a net benefit for the Democrats. If Biden isn't running for president and Ukraine is forgotten, Russia wins, but no one even talks about it. It's just forgotten. Well, then, the entire Project Ukraine has just disappeared. Biden disappears, Project Ukraine disappears, and for the Democrats, they can run a Gavin Newsom, and it's like they get a clean slate in a way. And you just don't talk about Project Ukraine. And the Uniparty could agree to this. I could see the Republicans and the Democrats shaking hands and saying, we're not going to talk about Ukraine anymore. Give them 50 billion, give them 20 billion, whatever. Give them 5 billion. And we don't talk about Ukraine anymore. Shaking hands, deal. That's okay. Let's focus on the conflict in Israel, and Biden goes away, and that's that. So, anyway, let's do this. This is the story that is dominating the news cycle. This is the story that is dominating the news cycle. Absolutely. Okay, so a friend took me here the other day, and I had no idea that this existed, right behind the church. This building right here, right in front of you, was hit with a Tomahawk missile when they were bombing Belgrade. I mean NATO. So this has remained in the state that it was when the Tomahawk missile hit this building. This is the broadcaster, RTS, I believe. Is that the broadcaster? The TV, radio broadcaster for Serbia. Right here is a children's center, and it always has been a children's center. Even when they were bombing Belgrade, this was a children's center, right? Kids, little kids here. And you have the broadcaster right here. Let me just show you where we are so you can get an idea as to... Let me see, how am I doing on time here? All right, I think I'm okay. So there you can see the tower up there. And we'll do a clown world in just a sec. So this is the broadcaster here, RTS, right? Yeah, RTS. And NATO, they targeted this building. I believe they killed dozens of technicians, right? People working in the broadcasting studio. NATO targeted them right next to the children's center, right next to the church, St. Mark's, historic, beautiful church. You're going to tell me this was a military target? This is NATO. And good on Serbia for keeping this as is. That's the damage. And I believe it was a Tomahawk. Could be wrong about that, guys. Let me know in the comments down below. People from Belgrade, if I'm correct in my my recollection of this event. That's NATO, a defensive alliance, right? We're just a defensive alliance. We're NATO. We're the good guys. We're the defensive alliance. We're just bombing, radio and TV channels with churches and schools right next door. We're a defensive alliance. Anyway, let's do a clown world and wrap this video up. I hope this video is not too long. So let's go to this tweet. Let me pull it up here. Okay, so we have this tweet from Daniel Faubert, how Germany sponsors Russia's global war against the West, finances and promotes illegal immigration, finances, I think that's Palestinian flag, Nord Stream 2, tried until the end. I don't know what that means. Germany, is he saying that the West tried until the end with Nord Stream 2? I don't know. Ruined nuclear energy in, I think that's the EU flag. I hate when tweets put like the flag, because the flag is so small I can barely make it out. I think that's the EU flag. Ruined energy in the European Union, said we couldn't survive without Russian gas, opposed sanctions on Russia, and made everything it could to block military aid to Ukraine. So I guess he's criticizing, I think he's based in Warsaw anyway, I think he's criticizing Germany, saying that basically Germany has done nothing and has kind of helped Russia in the last year and a half. I don't know what planet he's living on, to be quite honest. Germany destroyed itself for Ukraine. I mean, I don't know what he is talking about. Wow. People in Serbia, if you guys may want to let us know what this is saying. 23/12/1999, the year. There's a photo right there. So, what's he upset about? Is deindustrializing Germany not enough for you? I mean, what more do you want? So he's upset that Germany has not done enough. Okay. But the funny part about this clown world is the map that he drew. So everyone has these maps now, and they like to draw arrows, So I've got a galaxy with the note, with the pen, and it's pretty cool. You can draw the arrows and stuff, and it's pretty helpful to write down notes. I quite like it, actually. You can write down your thoughts, and it's good. It's very helpful. But a lot of people use the galaxy, and they create and they draw the arrows, and they take the maps and draw all these arrows, and everyone's drawing the arrows to analyze military movements and stuff like that. And so this guy came out with a map, and he drew the arrows of Russia's hybrid, super duper, multi-front attack towards Europe. And they're coming, and Russia is coming from the east, and they're coming from the south, and they're coming from the north, they're coming from everywhere to destroy Europe. Let me give you my map. Here's my map of how Russia is going to invade all of Europe. Not only Russia. Here's my map of how Russia and Africa and the Middle East are going to invade all of Europe. This is my map that I drew up. Anyway, everybody, that is the video, theduran.locals.com. We are on Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rumble, Rockfin, and we are on Twitter, but now it's called X. Take care.